everyone, my name is Taylor Pettitt with Concert Crap. Today I'm here with Dan and Brian from the band Ninja Sex Party. How are you guys doing today?
Hi, buddy. Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So before we get into anything, why don't you give you guys, wow. How about you give a quick introduction on who you guys are and what NSP is all about for those who may not be familiar?
You want to go first, Bry?
Sure. So my name is Brian Wecht. I am a former professor of theoretical physics who left that in, was it 2015, when this band that we're talking about today started to get some traction and became a full-time job. And now I'm half of Ninja Sex Party. In the band, I play Ninja Brian. I'm in a ninja costume, so all you can see is my eyes right here. And I play keyboards. And originally, when we were writing, when it was just me and Dan, I would write all the instrumental music in the band. Now we work with a producer, Jim Roach, and he and I co-write the instrumental stuff together.
Yeah, and I'm Dan Avidan, and I'm a singer and comedian. And Brian and I started Ninja Sex Party in New York City in 2009. Part of the comedy scene there with Upright Citizens Brigade and the Pit, and just part of an underground comedy scene. And to our shock and disbelief, it took off in 2013 when I joined a YouTube show called Game Grumps, where we talk and joke over video games while we play them. And certainly not what I expected to do with my life, but I'm very grateful that it worked out that way, because I mean, that job didn't exist when I was a kid, you know?
Or when we started the band even.
That's really what's amazing. I was thinking about that too, because when we started, we came up through YouTube, and that's how we found our audience. And YouTube had started in 2006, and by 2009, we already thought, man, we really missed that YouTube train. You know, like we should have jumped on it earlier. And I mean, that seems ridiculous now, but now somehow, just from not quitting over the past 12 or 13 years, we've suddenly become these cagey veterans of the YouTube music and comedy scene. And yeah, we're just very fortunate, very lucky.
I saw someone post about in the Mystic Crystal, which is what we're going to talk about today, we have there's a cameo from Lloyd from Epic Rap Battles, and I saw someone say Lloyd and NSP, oh, my two childhood favorite bands, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, it is amazing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I had a similar thing. Someone came up to me the other day and said, I started listening to you guys when I was in third grade, and my wife and I are getting married this month. And I'm like, oh, good.
That's impressive, actually. That's wow.
That's nuts. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is really wild. And I don't know how it happened, but I guess if you just love doing something and you kind of get into it, the years sort of fall off the calendar without you even realizing it.
Yeah, like I can't believe our 10th anniversary was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's a question I actually had. Like, y'all have been a band for 12 years. How does it feel to constantly have to navigate through the ever-changing tide of not only the music industry, but also social media? Like, that's just a double whammy.
Yeah, it's, we have such weird careers in terms of the music industry. We're not on a label, we're totally indie, so we're able to we kind of can just do our own thing because we have a very supportive fan base. And so we're not at the mercy of a label. We're not at the mercy of someone else saying, oh, we're giving you money for this video, so you have to do it our way. You can't do this. You can't do that. We literally, like, the money we make by selling our music and merch and tours and all that stuff just goes back into the band. And because we're self-financed, we can just do whatever we want. So it feels like we kind of lucked out. The music industry has changed a lot, over the 12 years we've been a band, now like it's almost everything is just streaming, which was barely, I think, not even a thing when we first started. But because we have these supportive fans, we don't need to worry so much about the vicissitudes of the industry. Social media is a whole other animal, which, honestly, the social media for the band is largely, at least on Twitter, is just a joke machine. It has very little to do with the actual content of the bands. I run the social media for us, and our Twitter is just dumb jokes and 80s references and non sequiturs, and has very little to do with the actual music we put out. So
Yeah, and fortunately, we're the music we make and the comedy we make is ridiculous and over the top, but in our personal lives we're very normal guys, and there never have been personality conflicts or anyone, going on crazy drug binges and destroying hotel rooms, all those weird trappings that you hear about. So even though from who knows what it looks like from the outside perspective, but inside our own life bubbles, we've been pretty steady. So it's never really been a question of will this thing, go off the rails randomly because of something, because we can't trust each other. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, it is always interesting to hear just regular fans of music talk about how these dudes in bands are like these gods, and it's like, oh, they're untouchable, I can't even speak to them. And it very much seems that y'all have a good relationship with your fans, because I always see like pictures of you guys meeting fans after shows, back when shows were a thing, and you interact with fans a lot on social media, like reposting fan art, anything like that. And it's just very nice to see that,
well, I think I speak for you when I say this, Danny. Like, that's the lifeblood of what we do. We want to, the fan art in particular. Like, there's so many talented people out there posting their stuff. Like, I often feel like we don't retweet or whatever that stuff enough, because there's so much of it out there, and it's so great that that honestly is what keeps everything going. And sometimes also, we'll see stuff we really like, and then we'll reach out to the person and be like, hey, that design was amazing, like, can we buy that and do it on t-shirts? So we actually get merch ideas occasionally from stuff people just post. But yeah, well, I never want to lose sight of the fact that we couldn't do this, especially as a very YouTube-y kind of act. Like, we could not do what we do without that amazing community of fans.
Yeah, and every time you put out an album, and I've heard other bands that I consider very uh legendary and ultra stable, like, of course you guys will always be huge, that kind of thing. But I've heard them say this too, and we feel this way every time we put out an album. We're like, is this the one where no one cares anymore? You just never feel like like everything is set now forever. People's tastes change, and as just like as we were saying, like as some people age out of the part of life that they were in before, you wonder if they'll still like what you do. But so far so good. We've been very fortunate in that respect, and we just at this point want to keep going as long as we possibly can, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is an amazing situation to be in where, like I was saying before, no one is telling us what to do. We can do literally whatever we want. We now work with this incredible producer, Jim Roach, who we've been working with for about 4 or 5 years now. And our session guys and our live touring band, TWRP, are like, they can play anything. If we need, we've done stuff where we've hired string quartets, horn players, backup singer. Like, we can make anything we want. And that's, why would you ever want to give that up? It's I think it's kind of the dream for every artist to be able to basically live out their artistic fantasies however they see.
Yeah, you don't have a record label breathing down your neck going, okay, this rock song was fine. I want you to put out a pop song. We want to get this on the Billboard Top 100.
Yeah,
It fits in very well with what this interview is about, because on our 2018 record Cool Patrol, we had a song called Danny Don't You Know, and that broke out of the usual circle of fans. That one really connected with a lot of people, and there's no question that if we were with a label, we would have gotten the demands from the top saying, write an album of 12 more of that song, whereas the first thing we wrote for this new album was a 12-minute long song about wizards, so which I mean, Mystic Crystal, we're super proud of it. It's not one of those songs that was ever in danger of being played on the radio, and so we're amazingly lucky that like whatever we feel like doing, we can do.
We tried to write a pop song once and then got 2 hours in and we're like,
I'm sorry, my dog is freaking out for some reason.
The dangers of having a pet.
Yeah. Internet Zoom calls. Maybe, you know what? Okay, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
If that becomes a consistent issue, I'll move downstairs.
Yeah, you're all good. Don't worry about it. But yeah, with the Mystic Crystal, on to the main topic of all of this. Did you originally intend for it to be 12 minutes long, or was that something that kind of took shape on its own?
Well, my dream was for it to be 20 minutes long initially, because it's sort of an homage to these 70s progressive rock songs by bands like Rush and Yes and Led Zeppelin, where it would be the song would be a story, and they would usually clock in around 20 minutes. Most of them, not all, but most would have a section between like minute 12 and 15 where you're like, all right, guys, this probably could have hit the editing room floor. But the
5 minutes of just water sounds.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, but we just figured we'd follow that structure and see where the song landed time wise. And at 12 minutes is what it ended up being, but it could have been anywhere around that time period.
We knew it was going to be long. We did not have the specific length in mind, because that would be too much of a hard target to hit.
Yeah. It at that point it gets very restrictive, but you could have had an 8-minute long guitar solo and that would have gotten it up to 20 minutes.
Oh yes.
If we'd wanted to pad the stats, we could have made it happen.
Yeah.
Now earlier you had mentioned that a lot of times you'll hire fan artists to either produce merch for you, or say in this instance with the Mystic Crystal, the Knights of the Light Table, the animation team behind it, weren't they originally producing like an animated video for Game Grumps, and that's how you guys got together?
Yeah, what was that connection?
Honestly, I can't remember how we met them. It's been a long time. The first time we worked with them was for a video we did called Heart Boner, where they created some Disney style animations that blended in with the live action part of the video. I would have to check. We've just been speaking with them for so long, and they've become good friends. They're unbelievable. They're some of the best animators out there. And they're connected to Powerhouse Animation, who worked on the Castlevania series for Netflix. And they're working on the He-Man series now that a trailer just dropped for. They're astonishingly talented, and we're stupidly lucky that they like us as people and are willing to work with us on videos.
But we do work with a lot of animators that do come from the Game Grumps animated world, who do they'll do like 1 to 3 minute videos for stuff that Dan and his co-host Aaron say on Game Grumps. And then often when we're looking, we have a new video that we want to do an animated thing for, we'll look through those and be like, okay, like what kind of jumps out? It's not like what do we like necessarily, just that. It's like, well, what do we think would be a good fit for the band too? Style. And we've probably worked with, I mean, it's somewhere between 5 and 10 different young animators that we just saw a great video from them for a Game Grumps thing. We're like, hey, can we hire you to do this? One guy we've worked with a bunch, who goes by Shucharu, his name is Simon Mako.
Yeah.
He started out as a fan animator, and now he's done 3 videos for us, 4, depending on how you count, a bunch.
He's legendary. I don't know how he does it.
No, yeah, but that does happen a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's fantastic that y'all work with and collaborate with all these brilliant animators, because especially nowadays you don't see a lot of animated music videos, and I feel like that really sets you guys apart from just like mainstream media, and it shows that you will pay for the product that you want, you support smaller artists, and it's just all around a good thing to see.
Yeah, and the fans love we have a lot of art and animation people that are fans, and I think they respond to that as well. Like the animated videos we do, I think are generally the more popular ones too.
Not to mention the fact that we tend to write a lot of songs that are completely unfilmable. In the early days, if we wrote a song that there was just no way we could film it in a funny way, we just wouldn't make a video for the song.
Mhm.
But now we can say, okay, that that one works for animation. And with something like the Mystic Crystal, it was an interesting combination because there were some things we could film and some things we couldn't. And the animated sections really, like, I don't want to say trick, but they sort of make your brain think that you saw something that you didn't actually see. There's I don't know if you're familiar with the video "Out of the Black" by Royal Blood.
Vaguely.
Amazing music video, and same kind of thing. It goes back and forth between live action and animation, and same sort of thing. Like there will be a giant nunchuck fight with aliens, and then like the hero lands in that anime pose, and then it switches to live action. And I'm like, man, all they had to film was that guy kneeling there, and yet like you took the audience on this cool journey. So that animation has been really, really helpful for us, and even in a way that we didn't plan. Just during the pandemic, they were able to keep working on stuff that when we couldn't actually interact with another human being.
Yeah, well, Welcome to My Parents' House, which is a video that Shuchuru did, was going to be live action originally, and then once I don't think we'd even gotten so far as to like booking like really nailing that down. But once the pandemic hit, it was like, well, that is just not happening, so let's just do it animated, and just went fully down that road. But yeah, that kind of saved our butts last year with our new album release, because we could flip over a bunch of stuff from live action animation.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I think it's just like you said, it makes the music video so much grander, being able to like because I don't think you would be able to have a live action dragon puking on you in real life. At least not
that I'm aware of.
It turns out they don't exist, which was a shock to me personally.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
That's the first I've heard of it. But with animation, you're able to just really bring it to life, and I feel, especially with some of the scenes, especially later on in the music video, where it was a combination of little animated critters running around, and you're walking through the cave, and it's live action and animated. It's so cool to see that, because it really ties it all together.
Yeah, I love it when those little like Zelda fairies are flying around.
Yeah, it adds a lot. And I mean, we grew up with stuff like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and those types of movies, and it makes everything seem more magical, because it normally, if we had gone full in our earlier days, the only way we could film stuff like that live action in a funny way would be to go very low budget looking. Like, like the dragon would have had to be like a dachshund in a little dinosaur costume, that kind of stuff. But at some point you want to evolve beyond that, because we just never want to make the same album or video twice. And I think Mystic Crystal was, I'd have to look, but I think it's our 55th music video.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's a lot of things we've done at this point, and it gets harder and harder not to repeat yourself. So we have to go sort of grander with things.
And that's a big part of the Mystic Crystal video too, was that, so as Danny said, we get in this space where we're like, and then there's a dragon, and then we're flying into space, and then we budget it out, and it's like, oh God, oh
Yeah.
And so what we did for this one was we were like, well, there's no way we can make this video, so we did a fundraiser for it, essentially, where we said we're going to sell these pins. We didn't want to do a Kickstarter, mainly because like I just wanted I wanted people to have a thing that they could just point out and say, I got this because I supported that, and to have it be that simple. And it felt like with Kickstarters, all these tiers, it's a very complicated thing. So we decided to just do a thing where it's like, hey guys, we're selling a pin at the normal price we would sell a pin. They were $20 each. It's like anyone who buys one of these, that money is going to the video. And it's that if you want to support it, you get a pin. Like the worst thing that happens is you get a cool looking pin. But no matter what, we're taking the money. We've calculated how many of these we need to sell to afford this video, and all the money goes towards it. And the fans, again, because we have this amazing community, showed up. We sold all the pins we needed to finance it, and we're able to make the video we wanted to make because the fans showed up for it.
Still scary though, because anytime you take someone's money with the understanding that it's going to be put towards something, like you really have to deliver. And I feel like we've all seen Kickstarters that have gone south in a lot of ways, and those types of fundraiser things. And it can go real south real fast. So
especially if they're really successful, and so you see all these examples of Kickstarters that make an amazing amount of money, and then everyone's like, well, how exactly are you made millions or whatever from that? What am I getting for that? And which is a great question. That's why we wanted to be like, okay, here's what we need to sell. We're going to sell it, hopefully, and then it'll be a lot simpler than that.
Yeah, and we didn't make millions, for the record. Yeah, that's talking about something else.
Raking in the cash with a bunch of pins.
We budgeted the video, and it was like, this is $1 million. It's like, no, that's just an automatic no. Like that is way beyond any budget we could ever work at for a self-financed thing like this.
Yeah. And how did it feel when you were finally able to fulfill the budget and have your dreams of this music video become a reality and get to start working on it?
It was amazing. I mean, we had a whole set built for it, so we knew we were going to do, as we said, like part live action, part animation. We reached out to a bunch of our YouTube friends and other people that we thought would be good for different roles in the video. And then, lots of production meetings and how are we going to do this, art department, that kind of stuff. And then I just remember walking into that set. So we got a big sound stage, and walking into that set the first day where they had built a throne room and like a kind of crappy apartment, all right on the same stage. We had a throne room, a dumpy looking apartment, and these like beautiful caves, and they're all adjacent to each other. And while we're shooting in the throne room, they're building the caves, and we're shooting the caves and building I was just like, oh my God, this is it felt super legit, like the most legit thing we've ever done in terms of like scale. It's like, oh, I think this is what a real like film shoot feels like. And then just to see this thing that came from the song we had written, a few years before it at that point, to suddenly be real, and you can point to the cave and be like, look, there's a crystal cave right there, and it's beautiful.
It's right there.
It meant a lot because we've been working towards that for 10 years. Almost from the beginning, our fourth music video was a video called The Sacred Chalice, where it was a longer song. It was a 4-part thing that had, skits in the middle, but it would keep going back to the song. But it was another medieval adventure, so low budget. I mean, we're running around with like little plastic toy swords and stuff like that. But in retrospect, far beyond what we were capable of pulling off at the time. But then 5 years later, we did another one called 6969, which was much farther along in that long song kind of video world, but still lacking in some ways. And this was finally something where we were like, wow, this is like what we dreamed of, and it actually looks like that. Yeah. So it was super meaningful in that way. As far as the filming goes, it was also kind of strange and nerve-wracking because, like we said, in the early days, we would buy our own props at dollar stores and stuff like that, and collect them and be responsible for every part of the video as it was happening. Like there was only one camera doing things, so we would always be watching what's getting filmed. With a production like the Mystic Crystal, there were, who knows, 30, 50 people involved, something like that.
Around all in, it was like 50 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're filming stuff in the throne room, there's a whole B crew working on building the set for where we fight the necromancer. And we just, we're acting in the first room. So there was stuff that you just had to take on faith, like someone else more capable than me has this covered. But it was very strange because you would walk into they would say, okay, let's go into the other room now. And you would walk in and think, okay, this is what this thing in your head that you've thought about for a year, this is what it's going to look like. And it's already done. So you just have to be cool with whatever it looks like.
You have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course they did an amazing job and it looked awesome. But you sort of have to like let go a little bit of your own control issues,
Yeah. At some part, if you start working with a crew of more than, it's even like 5 people, there's only so much you get to say about what other people are doing. And on a production of this scale, we just hired people we knew we could trust. And then they hired people they knew they could trust. And it kind of becomes this little like pyramid of trust. And it all, I wouldn't change a thing. I loved it all.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have a full production team under your wing. Yeah. Did you guys have like kind of an, oh shit, we're actually doing this moment when you got to the set? Because like, as you said, you started out just filming everything yourself, being in charge of everything yourself. And suddenly you go like 10 years down the line, you're like, wow, this is like a music video. This is a set. This is a team. There's someone over there making a crystal. Wow.
I mean, a bit, it's so gradual in a sense that you just kind of keep working up a little bit at a time, and you don't feel that, what, if you just watch the first thing and then the 50th, the first video, the 50th video, it doesn't feel like that jump in real life. It just feels like you're walking up a staircase, and every time it's like, oh, okay, I guess we have a 2-camera thing now, and someone's building that set this time, and then it kind of aggregates into this thing. So I can't say, like, I definitely had wow, this is amazing. And then on reflection, it's like, wow, that was quite a journey to get there. But I never personally had that, oh shit, I can't, like, it was more like, wow, this is amazing. And this is what I've always wanted.
Yeah, it felt great. And as far as like the actual filming day goes, your mind is so focused on what needs to happen, and okay, like we got to make sure these scenes are done by this time and stuff like that. You're almost too busy to really enjoy anything. The enjoyment comes the day after, when your body's exhausted and you can barely move and you're just like, oh, we did it. And like, at least now we can, not that the process of editing and After Effects is ever relaxing, but like, at least it's something that can be controlled in like this. You can go into that mole-like existence where you're in a dark room, like working through stuff, and you have a lot of opportunities to fix things and change stuff. But getting the stuff filmed and having the footage in the can is a huge relief, and that's, at least for me, generally when I feel very happy.
Yeah, I did have a thing where so on set, so I used to be an academic. I went to grad school and everything, And my graduate, like my thesis advisor in grad school, is from LA originally, and he was going to be in town. And I was like, dude, if you want, we stayed in touch. He's a very sweet guy. And I was like, Ken, if you want, like, we're doing this big thing, you can come by the set. And this is a guy who, when I left being a professor to do this full time, was a little bit like, you sure, bud? Like, you sure you want to, you've worked your whole career for this professor job? Like, he was supportive, but it was, it was like
a very valid response, I feel.
Yes, it's, as I've told people before, like on paper, I quit my stable tenured professor job to do this weird band the year I turned 40, which on paper reads 100% like a midlife crisis. And it's like, what, you're leaving to do what? To dress up like a ninja and write songs about dicks?
Like good luck, I guess, but like, are you sure?
Right. And it took a lot of, assuring people like, well, look, I think this is not a stupid idea. I have a lot of faith, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, to have my thesis advisor show up to this set and be like, and he's been watching the videos. Like, it's not like he was totally out of touch, but he was like, oh my God, this is, wow. Okay. I think I understand why you did this.
He had the oh shit moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was nice to have someone from my previous like academic life and someone who's been very important to me as a mentor and as a friend, to have him see that and really sync this. And I also was like, this isn't typical, by the way, this is not a typical NSP music video, but like to get him to see us working at that scale, that was really like, that was a special thing for me.
That's really cool. And how long did the full production of this music video take? Like, or we'll say from conceptualizing the song to when you got word back that the video's done, how long did that take? And did the pandemic affect any of it?
Yeah, it was this. Sorry, you want to take this one, Day?
No, go ahead.
I mean, all in about 3 years. Like, if you really start from the writing of the song, maybe even a little more. Can you remember when we started writing the song?
2018.
2018, yeah. So about 3 years. And then, you got to write it and record it. So we didn't record the album this is on. We didn't record every track on the album at once. This is the first track we wrote, first track we recorded. Because we were like, we know we want to make a video for this. Like, so let's like do it. Let's get it done. And then started talking about the video, and that's a whole thing. But to answer your other question, the pandemic absolutely did affect the video, because luckily we were able to shoot the live action stuff before the pandemic really hit. So it didn't affect the shooting, but everyone's lives just went into chaos after, everyone had to stay home and people didn't have access to equipment and people were trying to make ends meet and taking other gigs. And so with the post-production stuff, a lot of people just, didn't have the time they thought they were going to have to work on this. And of course we totally understood. And, it's like, hey, let's get through this and, take care of yourself first. This is, it's important to us, but it's just a music video. You having enough money to pay rent and eat food is far more important. So there were a lot of, I hesitate to even call them delays, but the post-production took longer than we were originally envisioning, just because everyone had to figure out what their lives were in the COVID world.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we have to thank the fans for, because they were very understanding in terms of, okay, this is going to take a little longer than we expected, just because, I mean, I feel like it would have no matter what, just because it was a bigger undertaking than we'd ever had before. But to throw the slow chaos of COVID on top of everything, it was a real, I don't know, just a real testament to how cool the fan base is, that they were like, yeah, take your time, just make it cool when it comes out. We
would put out updates, and I think we put out 1 or 2 updates throughout, being like, okay, guys, here's where we are. Like, here's some clips, this is what we're looking at. It's still going to be a while. And the response every time was like, take all the time you need. We trust you guys to make this the best it can be. And, everyone is struggling right now. So we totally get it. So, and that, as Danny said, that, you couldn't ask for a better response than that.
Yeah. And the response back to the video has been incredible. I've seen so much fan art online already of just like the necromancer and the princess and all that. And it's just, your fan base is certainly dedicated, to say the least. How does it feel to just constantly see that type of support from people that have connected so much with the things that you put out?
There's not really words for it, because for me personally, I started doing music and comedy when I was 19, at least with the mindset of, I want this to be my job, and it didn't become a viable way to make a living until I was 34. And so that was a long period of time where I just had to keep recommitting and taking it on faith that, hey, this is going to work out, And the biggest difference between those first 15 years and these past 8 since that turn happened has been the fan base, and the fact that, I mean, Brian, you can attest to this, like the difference between our early days and now. Now when we do something, we actually know that somebody's going to watch it, which is such a basic thing, but it gives you such a different kind of mood and energy while you're creating it. It's not just like, am I doing this for no reason? Is what we're doing with our lives something that matters, Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know if we can put it into words how meaningful it is. It's everything.
When we started, we started as, originally we were, a 2-person live comedy act playing in the clubs Danny was talking about before. And if we were doing our own show, like the Ninja Sex Party show, it was like, well, are we going to get 10 people to show up? Like, that was like a pretty decent audience. There's small clubs.
We're in the double digits. Like,
yeah. I remember when we had 30 people show up to a show once, and we were like, oh, did we just make it?
Like, what are all these people doing here?
Yeah.
It's like a microphone and a keyboard plugged into a bad sound system, and that was I wouldn't even call it a concert, because we didn't think about it like a concert. We thought about it like a little comedy show, kind of like a 30 or 25 minute, almost like a mini play or something.
Yeah.
And to go from, well, I hope more than 10 people show up to this one, to probably, if it tracks with the recent releases, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are going to see it. That's like, how do you describe that? It's incredible.
Yeah.
I will never not be grateful for it.
Yeah. Those type of numbers, just, you get to a certain point where you're like, that's just insane to think about, especially when you break down, you sell out a show at like a venue with, or like starting out, if you get like 1,000 people, you're like, oh, that's so cool. And then you really think about it, you go, I don't know 1,000 people. And there's that many people that know me, and they're paying to see me. And then you celebrated your 10-year anniversary at an arena show. That's even bigger. Do you still remember the number of how many people had shown up to that show?
Yeah, it was just about 8,000, just under 8,000.
That's impressive. That's so many people.
Yeah, certainly, we booked that, and as Danny said, it was like, well, are they going to come?
Yeah.
We when we tour now, we're routinely, our typical room size is like around 2,000 people. It maybe is a little under, a little over. But that was a big stretch from, what we'd been doing recently. And we were like, okay, but we wanted to be special. We've always wanted to do an arena show, and let's just hope for the best. And then it happened. It was not like officially sold out, but it was just like a hair under, which was still even more than we, really hoped for that show. We were like, it'll probably be like, if we're really lucky, 5,000 or 6,000 people.
Yeah, and I believe people had come over from all over the country and probably even the world. I'm sure loads of people traveled for that. And that's just, I can't imagine what that's like for you guys to see that, like, that type of support, especially just reflecting on the fact that you've been doing this for 10 years. And then with the Mystic Crystal, having those pins sell out and getting so many views, so much of an outcry of support once the music video releases, that's just like, it really is like a band is set in its fans.
Yeah, I think it's still, I think because we're still in it, there's this feeling of like unreality to it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I have a feeling that when all is said and done and we retire and we look back on it, I think that's when we'll really be like, holy shit, did that actually happen? You know?
Do that.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this.
Oh, you're fine. You're all
Okay,
good.
cool. But yeah, while you're in it, it's just like it's kind of the same. It's like the other side of the coin of when you look back at the quote unquote hard times when you're doing it for no money. And Brian had a steady job, but I did not. I was working terrible jobs to just try to make ends meet while working on music and comedy and stuff. But you don't think of those as hard times either when you're in them. You just think of them as, the times. And only now that I look back, I'm like, how the hell, like I would never do that again, So it's like so many things in life, you don't really appreciate it until retrospect.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best to like, appreciate it in the moment.
Yeah, and it really does come across that way, genuinely. Now, a question I had back on the topic of the Mystic Crystal music video, did you guys have any fun or crazy stories about either just the full production of it or when you were filming the live action bits?
I mean, well, the horses were pretty wild. So we used real horses. And do you remember this, Danny? We didn't know if that area in the park was going to be unlocked until the day of. Do you remember this?
Oh, that sounds like something that would happen,
Yeah.
but I don't remember it.
So there was a whole thing that day where they're like, okay, we think we have it set. And this is not because the people we were working with were incompetent or something. This is just kind of the way things go. It's like, well, we have the permits. We're 99% sure they're going to come and unlock the gate. So let's all hope. So we show up. It all worked out. And then we rode real horses, and my horse kept just like walking away, and it kind of had a mind of its own. And tell me if I'm remembering this right, Danny. We shot the horse stuff, and we watched it back, and we were like, I don't think this really works in quite the way we wanted it to.
Yeah, it's just when we had never worked with animals like that before, and you sort of. Boy, Game of Thrones makes it look very easy to shoot an awesome horse fight scene. We ended up using maybe 10 seconds of the actual footage, but again, because initially the section in where Brian shoots me with the arrows, that was all supposed to be live action and computer graphics, and it just looked so lame.
It turns out you need to know how to shoot a bow before you actually do it. And I have approximately, I mean, look, I did archery in camp when I was 12, but since then I have never picked up a bow and arrow, and I'm picking this thing up and I'm like, I guess I should have practiced this. This is not, and then you realize, oh, actually that's a hard thing to do and do well. And probably if I were a real actor on a real set, I would have taken lessons and learned how to do it. Instead of, because of the way we can afford to do things, I just showed up and I was like, oh, there's my bow. And I guess I got to do it on a horse. Oh no.
Uh-oh, that's really difficult.
Totally. And so we ended up using very little of the horse footage we shot. But again, the animation swooped in and saved us because we talked to the Knights of the Light Table who had agreed to animate other parts of the video by that point. And we said, hey, would you mind animating this section as well? Since we're clearly incapable of filming it correctly. And just with that very little amount of footage we had with the horses, that was enough to create the illusion in people's minds that they were seeing, when it switched to animation, they quote unquote bought it. You know, it still fit in with the live action stuff. It wasn't just like, it could have seemed lame if everything we were trying to pull off had live action had no connection to the animated stuff. But just having that image of us on the horses was enough to glue that stuff together in a believable way.
Those scenes are some of my favorite in the video now, and I can't imagine doing them any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you had said that like with the horses, you had filmed them live action and then went, oh, this doesn't look good, let's have it animated. Did you have kind of an idea in mind when you first started thinking about the music video, like what would be live action, what would be animated? Or did some other things happen like that where you're on location and you go, this isn't really working out, let's toss that over to the animators?
No, that was all planned out. I mean, we basically had 4 live action locations. We had the horses outside, we had the throne room, we had the apartment, we had the necromancer's cave, and that was it. And so we knew going in, because on a production this scale, like that, you really do have to plan that stuff out. So we knew what we were doing live, and we knew what we were doing animated, and then that basically would have been impossible because of the timing of COVID and everything. We couldn't have picked up live action shots after we were already in post production. And so, whereas you can totally say, actually, we don't want to use that live stuff, we're going to do it animated instead. But yeah, that was all planned ahead of time.
Yeah, not to mention if the scene where we're traveling through different lands on horseback, if we had tried to shoot that live action, it would have been transporting the horses and the entire crew over to various different locations, many of which would have had to be outside of the Los Angeles area, because LA is very litigious when it comes to film permits, and you have to be careful of where you film. That included the castle scene. Initially, we tried to find a place, a live action place that we could film the castle interior and an exterior as well. But just to shoot that horse travel scene live action probably would have been in the 6 figures, you know, and that would have been, you know, obviously the entire budget of the whole video. So at one, animation was just like the costumed hero that could swoop in at any time and really bail us out of jams.
Yeah, you'd have had to sell a lot more pins to make that happen.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, do you guys plan on doing another huge music video similar to the Mystic Crystal in the future? Or is that something that's just you haven't thought about yet?
I mean, if I had to guess, I think it'll happen. One of the things this has taught us is that we can ask the fans to, you know, help us fund things like this again. But we're not going to, you know, when we came to the fans with the ask for the pins, we were like, here's the song. We had a video where we played the song for it, right? Didn't we put the song out with the pin?
Yes, we did.
And we're like, here's the song we want to do. So whatever we do, we'd always want to have a very concrete, like, here's the song. We want to make a video for it. Please help. So at the moment, we're just about to start writing the next original album. We have, you know, like various song ideas, but nothing really locked down. If I had to guess, I bet it'll happen at some point, whether it'll be this album or the next one, who the hell knows. But yeah, we were talking, you know, after Mystic Crystal came out a few weeks ago, and we were like, this was such a great experience, 100% proof of concept we could do this again. And I think we probably will.
Yeah, it hasn't been a conscious decision, but we have 5 original albums out now, and I don't know if Sacred Chalice, God, it's been so long. I don't know if Sacred Chalice is on NSFW or Strawberries and Cream. Yeah, I think it came out on that album, but it was written in the NSFW Times. So without realizing it, we've sort of written one super long song every other album session. So I think our brains could probably use a break for this next one, but the album that comes after, I would love to do. I feel like we have at least one more giant song in us, and I've always wanted to do an undersea adventure one, just because I feel like it would be the one thing that's actually harder to film than Mystic Crystal, you know, because I don't even know how we would do underwater stuff.
Yeah.
But it would be cool.
We do have a title. I don't know what we would do with this, but do you remember Journey to the Center of the Something Something?
Yeah, it turned into Journey to the Center of the Room, where we're so lazy we can't get to the middle of the room. It's so dumb. Like, whoever's watching this shouldn't put any stock into that. Like, no. For every song title we come up with, there's 800 that don't end up panning out, you know?
And invariably, we start down one road writing a song, we spend a day on it, we're like, we hate this, abandon it, start something else, go down that path. Yeah, okay, that's the one. Like, do
you remember, Brian, the day we wrote Mystic Crystal, or at least the beginning of the music for it, we sat down to start the new album, and the first idea we had was to write a song about a motorcycle gang, where like it's like basically it would be the toughest gang of like little children, and we would be like fighting them and they would kick the crap out of us. And then maybe about 2 hours into that, we were like, this sucks, this is stupid, forget it. And we threw that out and then started writing the freaking Mystic Crystal, of all things. So it's you just never know where the creative process is going to take you. And like, we're very lucky at this ties back into what you were saying about no studio interference and stuff like that. The songwriting process for us is very much whatever's there is just there, you know, and you have to just write it down because that's what's in the air that day and that's what's funny, as opposed to here's the idea that you've been given and you need to make a song out of, and now force it, you know, even if it's not presenting itself to you, so to speak.
Which would just be a death blow to comedy.
Like, yeah, it would suck. So we just never know what's going to happen, and so we can't predict anything really.
Yeah, and a lot of times you just kind of have to wade through the trash to get to the treasure, and just get rid of all the stuff that's clogging up your brain, and then you go, oh, an idea, and it doesn't suck. Yay!
Yeah, our brains, as it turns out, are 90% trash when it comes to ideas. But that's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we unfortunately have to call this here.
All right.
We're out at 2.
Mm-hmm. Was there?
Oh, please. No.
I was going to say, was there anything else that you wanted to add about the Mystic Crystal in general?
I mean, no, nothing that we've already said. We're just thrilled we got to make it, and we're appreciative of everyone that helped us by buying the pins and watch the video. And you know, it's an incredible opportunity that we both feel lucky to have.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, I mean, as of us recording this, it's only been out for a week, you know, so the idea that it's just going to live out there and new people will discover it in perpetuity is a phenomenal feeling, and can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah. And just real quick, is there anything that y'all can disclose about what you're working on with future NSP stuff? You already said that you're working on the next album. Like, what can fans expect in the future?
Well,
about Level Up, Big?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So I think the next album is going to be, so we have 3 albums that we wrote before we started working with our current backing band and session guys, Twerp. And for the next album, we're going back and we're taking our favorite songs from the days when it was like all the instruments were me on, on my laptop doing it digitally. And we re-recorded those with Twerp, like a real band, performing them. Danny re-recorded his vocals. Like we were basically recreating them from the ground up, as we kind of always wanted them to sound when we were first starting. So that's the new thing. We haven't talked about it that much, but that should be out probably the fall sometime. But we're just like mixing just finished on that, and we're going into mastering now. And then it's always a few months, blah blah blah, But that's I'm very excited about the songs sound amazing, and that's the next big thing for us.
Yeah, and after that one's called Level Up, and after that, pretty close, we'll be releasing the acoustic show that we did virtually during the pandemic. We'll release that as an album. We didn't expect to, but the response was really good, and there were a lot of requests for it. So that'll be cool. And then we sit down in a couple of weeks to start work on original album number 6. So there may be as many as 3 NSP albums coming out over the next year and a half.
We're lucky enough that we're kind of on a schedule now where we lock stuff down in terms of the writing like a year before it comes out. So that's the acoustic show was weird because it just happened very quickly and it was like, all right, we did it, it's coming out. But probably if we start writing now, that means that next original album, next year sometime.
That's really fun. So not only something for old fans with Level Up, but you got just a little bit of a different mix in there with the acoustic show and just a whole new album full of original songs. That's fantastic. I'm sure your fans are very excited for it.
Yeah. Well, as Danny said, hopefully they show it. Like, hopefully people like, we're always surprised, but we're always hopeful.
Yeah, I think they will show up.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah. Anytime. Yeah.
Well, this was a really fun interview.
This has been wonderful. Thank you guys for joining us here. And for anyone that may not be aware, you can find Dan and Brian on social medias through either Ninja Sex Party or your own personal social medias, which is, can you remind me of what your...
Yeah, I only have one. I'm Danny __Avidan on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Wecht on Twitter and Instagram, and Brian Wecht on TikTok.
Have fun with it.
You got to hit that Gen Z audience somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been wonderful. And for anyone that hasn't seen The Mystic Crystal yet, or if you want to watch it again, there will be links everywhere, anywhere you can find them to watch it, because it is truly a fantastic video. And we'll definitely cover any new upcoming NSP stuff, because like they said, many new albums coming out in the foreseeable future. That's fantastic, guys.
Well, thanks so much, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, and have a great day.
Yeah, you
Take
too.
care.